Welcome to A Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Courser. Ron Courser and Associates are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
And welcome into the program. This is your Course to Retirement. Grand Rapids, your resource for a common sense approach to planning for your financial investment retirement future, is the team from Ron Courser and Associates. And today with us, we have Vice President Nolan Gosley. Nolan, welcome back in.
Hey, thanks so much, Peter. Happy to be here.
Always a pleasure. Enjoy having you on the program, providing you insight, giving us a little bit of a different voice. And I think one of the values there at Ron Courser and Associates is that you do have several different experienced, qualified professionals working as a team, kind of all eyes on the prize for your clients, making sure things are handled from a wealth and a health and a really total planning perspective.
Right, exactly. Yep. Much like Nancy runs her own kind of business with the Medicare and everything like that, Ron and I kind of have, our own business, our own clients and everything like that. But from a company standpoint and a holistic planning purpose standpoint, everybody's just part of the team, part of the family here at Ron Courser and Associates. So
holistic.
Yeah,
holistic.
exactly.
I like the word. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And ladies and gentlemen, they are there for your benefit, for your assistance. If you need guidance or perspective on planning, if you need specific recommendations on how to best achieve and accomplish your goals, that's what the Course to Retirement Plan is all about. It's a concise, consolidated document, easy to understand language. You can get that in your hands, or even just an answer to a specific question that's been on your mind. Give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581 to get in touch with Nolan, to get in touch with Ron, to get in touch with Nancy or the team there at Ron Courser and Associates. Or you can also go to roncourser.com, or again, the number to get a question answered, to get an issue addressed, or to get the Course to Retirement Plan in your hands, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Now, Nolan, we do need a holistic plan. We need a comprehensive plan that's going to address many angles. But one of the most important factors in that planning process is answering the question, am I ready to retire? Or how much do I need to be ready to retire? And today we're going to talk about the specific process that is going to help us answer and address that question, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So this covers a whole lot of different areas. As you know, we're going to dive into a whole bunch of different areas as far as planning for income, some potential pitfalls, maybe some potential opportunities, but certainly just trying to get people one step further in that direction to get you near, or even if you're in that retirement landscape already, comfortable with where your money is going to be coming from, so that you know where your income is going to be coming from as though you were working.
Nolan, do you ever get that as a question when somebody calls, comes into the office? Hey, I just want to know when I'm ready to retire.
Sure. Yeah. I even have 30 or 35-year-olds ask me, do I have enough? And I mean, with the ever-changing retirement landscape, how can you know? But for each person, that number's a little bit different. It's not necessarily a capital amount that we're looking for here, but when we talk numbers and we talk income and everything like that, what we're trying to figure out is, number one, how much does it cost for you to retire? And number two, how are you going to pay for it? It's not as simple as just X amount of stocks, X amount of bonds, and you should be good to go. That's a lot of what we're going to talk about today, is just some of the finite pieces, the inner workings of that concept.
Well, Nolan, I remember a catchy commercial a few years back. It had big green numbers floating over people's heads, and it said, "What is your retirement number?" And I think that we have equated that with the phenomenon and the ability to retire is we need to achieve and attain a certain number. And you're saying that maybe it's not all about that lump sum number?
Well, right. I mean, you could have two households, completely different situations that have completely different sources of income. You may have both spouses in one household that both have pensions, both have Social Security, and they may not need to tap into their assets that much to fill that income gap. Whereas household number two, while they do have the same net income need, may not have the guaranteed income sources. And so it's all about, how do I take money out of my retirement plan? How do I do it the most tax tax efficient way possible? And how do I really make my money work for me as much as it possibly can? How can I leverage my dollars in the most effective way so that I don't outlive my money? Not very many people want their last checks to bounce.
Right. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. Timing that correctly could be
Sure.
inherently difficult. So
Sure.
why not leave a little surplus rather than fall short by several years? I think would be the optimal way to do that.
Right.
As I've mentioned in conversations with my own parents. So, but Ron, when you're talking about this income, it's more about that paycheck. It seems like our reliance, our necessity for income, that's our true retirement number, more than the lump sum that we've been able to save and accumulate, is what it sounds like you're saying.
Right. And that changes as time changes, taxes change, Social Security changes, your qualification of different accounts may change. The government comes up with new rules each year that make these things change. So not only is it important to have a plan, but also to make sure that that plan changes with the times as things progress. Most times when you retire for 20 or 25 years, the rules aren't going to be the same at the end of your retirement as they are at the beginning. So yeah, developing a plan, developing that income plan and income allocation plan is incredibly important. And then making sure that that plan's flexible. I think the two go hand in hand and have to go hand in hand.
Well, today we are talking with Nolan Gosley about calculating your retirement number, answering those big questions. How much do I need to retire? When will I be able to retire? Have I already reached that point and may not even know it? We should know when we cross that finish line that we do have enough, and we should be confident in that. That's what calculating your retirement number is all about. If you've got questions about how to do that, if you would like that course to retirement plan in your hands, which will help you define your retirement number, pick up the phone, give Ron Corser and Associates a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. You mentioned income allocation, and I think that most investors are familiar with the term asset allocation. Income allocation is a different type, a different style, a different structure and process for planning, but it is a plan, and it is the plan that helps us arrive and calculate out what our retirement number is specifically.
Sure. And income allocation differs from asset allocation in a variety of different ways. I mean, in a lot of cases, income allocation includes asset allocation. So when you talk about asset allocation, what you're talking about is, let's say you have an IRA, for example. A typical moderate investor, if they're doing asset allocation, would have roughly 60% risky assets and 40% safer assets, or fixed income is what it's commonly referred to as. So a lot of times when you have this asset allocation, I mean, it works good most times, but there are a few instances in the past where maybe it hasn't. If you go through a dot-com bubble or a housing crisis or a pretty rough year like back in 2018 when so many sectors were down, if you have a bad year in the portfolio and continue to withdraw, you end up running into some issues. It's a further decline in your asset value. So an income plan or income allocation is simply saying, okay, some of my money is going to be designed for this income stream at this point in my retirement. This other pile of money is going to be designed for this income stream at this point in retirement, and really identifying when you need certain income to trigger, how you're going to get it, how it will be taxed, and if it's enough. And so it gets a little bit further than just 60% stock, 40% bond. It's a lot more about all of the risks surrounding asset withdrawals, not just how your assets are positioned in the market.
You mentioned that income allocation oftentimes actually includes a component of asset allocation, includes that as part of the plan. Asset allocation does not necessarily always include a component of income allocation. It's not reciprocal there. And that is probably why, as you indicated on several occasions, people have actually had trouble with asset allocation and being able to rely on that alone, especially during down or volatile markets.
Well, yeah. And I mean, a big problem with the asset allocation model is when it was created, we didn't have quite the globalization in stocks that we do right now. So, 60% stock, 40% bond portfolio 25 years ago, you probably would have had about a 95% certainty that you wouldn't outlive that money over 30 years if you withdrew X percent. But as we start to see more stocks be connected to more global events instead of local or domestic events, it needs to go a little bit beyond what is my stock to bond ratio. You now need to include what's my international risk with my domestic stocks, what's my company risk with my domestic securities, and it's just becoming more complicated. It's not as simple as it was when that rule first came out.
Well, I also, Nolan, believe that the vast majority of investors, when asset allocation was sort of incepted, when that came out, weren't relying on the investment portfolio to give them life support and stability in retirement. And that allocation model is 65, 66 years old at this point in time. And when that was incepted, the 401k wasn't around. The average Main Street American didn't have a large investment account and mostly relied on pensions, which aren't subject to fluctuations and volatility in the market as much.
Right. And because pensions, instead of being a rule now, are more an exception, a lot of people look for a pension-like investment. What can I put my money into to generate, a stream of income very similar to your parents, your grandparents' pensions that, they got from GM and Ford, which are probably the most common here in Michigan. Yep.
Right. But this is not a pension-like investment. This is a plan that is specifically designed to help us account for the lack of pensions that exist today.
Exactly right. I mean, if nobody's going to fill the gap for you, you have to fill it yourself. If an investment vehicle in its traditional sense is no longer available but would still work, you pretty much just have to find a way to make it work for yourself instead of somebody, giving it to you through an employer-sponsored plan or something out there, something like that.
Well, again, if you'd like to calculate out your retirement number, if you'd like an income allocation plan designed for you, if you'd like your course to retirement plan in your hands, pick up the phone, give Ron Courser and Associates, give Nolan Gosley a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. For this to really work, for this to be something that we understand the value in and the fact that it is going to provide, first and foremost, Nolan, I really think we need to acknowledge the need for income in retirement. I mean, after all, on the day that we retire, it doesn't suddenly mean we don't need an income. It means we don't have an income.
Right. And the biggest hurdle that we see, especially in that transition, you need an income. And what have you been doing your entire working career? You've been saving, putting away as much money as you can in your 401k, IRA, other investable assets that you plan on living on in retirement. And then all of a sudden you're expected to flip the switch and just start taking money out of your accounts. Well, you've been learning over a 30, 40-year period how to put money in and how money grows and everything to do with the 401k, but they don't teach you too much about how to take money out. That education in particular, usually you just get a severance package or a pamphlet of information asking if you'd like to roll it into an IRA, and that's where their education for you stops. And so a whole lot of people find themselves, once that switch flips, once you enter into retirement, really struggle with how to take money out. Which account do I tap into first? How do I position everything so that I'm better off in 5 or 10 years as opposed to, tapping into this now or that then?
I heard a term the other day, psychonomically programmed. It's psychologically and economically. We've been psychonomically programmed not to touch those retirement assets. Yeah. And the gentleman that coined that phrase, or at least mentioned it to me, said that he had been programmed so deeply that he really felt very nervous even beginning to tap into those retirement accounts and make those withdrawals. The income allocation plan, calculating out your retirement number, that's really designed to structure assets in a way that we can feel a little bit more comfortable beginning to reverse that direction.
I mean, that's exactly it. It's identifying your buckets of money. I mean, what is this bucket of money designed to do? If it's designed to provide you current income, then your goal then needs to become, okay, with this bucket of money, I'm going to go find the best investment vehicle I can possibly find to generate current income. And then you can take another little basket and say, well, this is going to be my 5 to 10 years from now money. I might need this money for a new car, new roof, down payment on a condo, whatever that might be. And then, of course, income allocation changes towards the end of life too, because not everybody wants to use all their money. Some people want to pass it on. And so it's also important to have not only your income taken care of, but any estate planning that you might want to do on the back end as well to make sure that whoever you leave behind is taken care of also.
Great question, because not everybody is going to have a need for a substantial amount of income or even have a need to tap into a portion of their assets at all. But even for those individuals, they generally like to be more efficient with their money and leverage their money with possible. Would you say that an income allocation plan, including this as a component of the total plan, of the holistic plan, still would provide them with measurable benefits?
Oh yeah, beyond what you already mentioned. I mean, an income plan gets way deeper. Are you in the correct type of IRA? From the income that you plan on having within your portfolio, is it in the best type of account for you? Are you getting tax benefits? Is your money moving efficiently? And efficiency of money movement, efficiency of withdrawals is, something that everybody needs to focus on. If I take out $1,000, how much of it do I have to get back? How much is going to net out to me? I mean, that's a really, really important thing for a lot of people to know. And even if you know your tax bracket in retirement, that may not tell you the full story. So yeah, income planning, income allocation, all about where that money is going to come from and how you're going to receive the money that you've worked so hard to save up.
So on one side, we've got the lump sum that we've saved and accumulated. On the other side, we've got the need for the income that we will rely on that will meet our standard of living expenses. Fair to say that the income plan, calculating the retirement number, is the bridge between the two?
Yeah, we seem to find a whole lot of success putting income plans together, bridging that gap and identifying those areas that we really need to focus on.
You mentioned the term gap. That's another part of calculating this retirement number, is understanding and calculating the income gap. It's kind of a mathematical process more than just reliance and projections on hypothetical market returns.
Sure. Yeah, a lot goes into identifying the income gap. When we talk about the income gap, there is a calculation that goes into it. The very, very simple way is you start with how much you take in each month. You have how much you have out each month, so cash in versus cash out, to actually come up with a surplus or deficit. Now, cash in retirement would include Social Security, any IRA withdrawals, any pensions that you may be eligible for, and so you total all that income up and figure out if it matches your total income needs. If it doesn't, that's the income gap. So that's what you need to identify as an investor, as a retiree, to say, I have income from all these different sources and it's all already set up and I'm eligible this age for this benefit and this is what I'm going to start this. But if you need $60,000 a year and your guaranteed money is only going to get you $40,000 a year, well, then you have a $20,000 income gap that you and a professional then need to figure out how to fill that. There's a variety of different ways to fill it. But that's what we would identify as an income gap.
But that income gap, that is what your personal assets need to be accountable for, reasonably, predictably, and reliably being able to generate for you throughout retirement, or at least on the first day of retirement. And I imagine it goes up over time.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you said a key word there, which is predictably. We call that mailbox money sometimes. So money that comes in each and every month, regardless of what happens in the market, regardless of what happens to the portfolio. And so if you can use, what you've saved up, the lump sum that you've saved up over your entire working career, and solve that income gap problem and solve it predictably and measurably and very consistently. I mean, that's what we try and do with the income gap. Not, in good years, we're going to take out this much money. In bad years, we're going to take out this much money. We need to have predictability because you truly never know what's going to come in the next year. I think 2020 gave us a pretty good example of that.
Sure. Nolan, you mentioned that, again, the income gap, the income allocation plan often includes an element of the asset allocation plan, but that not every investor has an income allocation. Question is this: do investors without an income allocation know predictably how much income they're going to be able to depend on in retirement?
So without an income allocation plan, it's a little tough to say. I would say that some do. Some people will claim that through investment research and due diligence that they know their expected income. That's always, I don't know. I like the way that's phrased. I know my expected income. Well, if it's expected, you don't really know it. You just expect it, right? So anyway, but without performance guarantees, that's usually a big one because stocks and bonds don't have performance guarantees. But without performance guarantees, there's significantly more risks within the portfolio, especially the risk of bad returns during years that you're still taking money out of the portfolio. So yeah, I would say that they have expectations, but certainly not a guaranteed income stream built into the retirement plan.
It's more of a, I think I can, I hope I can, I believe I can. It's not certainty and predictability. Whereas with an income allocation plan, if designed correctly, if positioned correctly, much more predictable income, and maybe we can remove a large degree of that uncertainty.
And that's really the focus there. I mean, all of retirement planning should really be focused around reducing uncertainty. I mean, nobody really wants to enter into retirement being unsure of where their next paycheck is going to come from. And so not only is it important to know, okay, Social Security, long-term care, all of my expenses, everything like that is going to be X dollars, but you have to have some sort of systematic system basically built into the income plan in order to bridge that income gap. Yeah.
You mentioned being optimal with our money or being efficient with our money. Do you find that investors who have not gone through this process, who do not have an income allocation or a course to retirement plan, understand which accounts to pull from first, second, last, and which order they should tap those accounts in order to be most efficient and optimize their income withdrawals?
Sometimes, yes, I would say some people do miss the mark just because, you're not a financial planner. You're not expected to know every little thing that goes into a plan like this. So what we do is we try to plan during working years to have the most efficient withdrawal strategy. This efficiency can include not paying too much in tax, balancing your Social Security taxes and penalties if you do draw early and get penalized in any way, navigating healthcare costs if somebody retires early, on and on and on and on. And so, retirees without a specific income plan may not know. I mean, they may see a huge dollar amount in an IRA and say, well, my IRA did really well this year, so I'm going to take out all of my income from my IRA. Well, that's a huge taxable event. And if you're taking Social Security and a big IRA withdrawal and you have some other income streams, well, you could potentially be taking away some of your Social Security benefit through that taxation or penalization as well. So again, yeah, it's critical to have an income plan because not only does that fill your income gap and give you an assured rate of income, but it will also help you understand, I need to withdraw from this account first and then this account, or these two accounts in tandem, but 80% from here and 20% from here. Otherwise, I'm going to go up into a new tax bracket, on and on and on. There's so many little things, that really get factored in there.
Why it is so important, ladies and gentlemen, to have a specifically mapped out course to retirement, why you need to have that income allocation plan. These are things that help you calculate out your retirement number and then be as efficient with your cash, with your assets, with your investments as possible. Optimize that plan. Keep as much of your money as you can. Give Nolan Gosley, give the team at Ron Courser and Associates a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Nolan, you mentioned the mathematical process of calculating out the income gap. Now, obviously, that is important. Part of the steps, the process was understanding what living expenses are. So do you encourage your clients, especially as they're in that transitionary period to retirement, to really put a high priority and emphasis on understanding their budget? It seems like a lot of people might lose track of that as they're earning good money and saving every month toward retirement, they might not have to stretch every dollar or pinch every penny quite as hard, but it feels like that becomes vitally important again as we're making this transition due to calculating out the retirement number and structuring the income allocation.
Defining your income need and that income gap becomes more and more critical as time goes on. As you said, not everybody has it set up the exact same way. Not everybody has defined and has been able to fill their income gap. But yeah, that monthly calculation, it has a whole lot of things that go into it. You want to talk about defining the income gap at this point?
Yeah, we can talk about that. I mean, we got just a couple minutes left in this segment of the program, so maybe we start on that and carry it over if we don't get to all of it.
Sure. Yeah. So budgeting is critical. We talk about budgeting a lot with folks, and a lot of times when you do a budget, it takes more than 1 or 2 months to really get a feel of where your money in versus money out is.
Sure. Yeah.
Starting with your average monthly spending is going to be a great way to identify your income gap. You just want to talk about how much do I spend each month? Now, this is where budgeting really comes in handy, because you will be able to identify what expenses you carry while you're working, and then what expenses you expect to carry into retirement. You may not need 2 cars. You may want to get an extra car. You may not need this camper. You may want to get a new camper. Might not need the house you're in. Might want to get a condo. So a whole lot of things change. But what doesn't typically change is your overall month-to-month expenses. And even if the mortgage changes, even if the car payment changes, most everything else remains relatively constant. And you wouldn't want to see that change too much in retirement either. You don't want to decrease your standard of living just to stop working, essentially.
So are we having to track every single expense along the way, or is there a process to begin, at least to get a ballpark of what this figure might look like?
Yeah, well, a variety of different people like to do it a variety of different ways. Our engineers like to do line by line every single, fast food
Got
item.
their spreadsheets
and
working for them.
right, exactly like that, and more conceptual people may say, okay, I have this much for car, this much for house, roughly this much for my other expenses. And it's important to identify that prior to retirement. And that's why we work on it. You don't want to be 1 or 2 years into retirement and then say, oh, shoot, I thought my income need was going to be 35,000, but it's actually 50,000 because I didn't consider taxes and I didn't consider healthcare.
Let's talk about all those items to consider when we come back. But
Sure.
Again, just to emphasize here, on the day after we retire, our need for income does not go away. Our paycheck, our income goes away. So we've got to replace that somehow. And that's why calculating your retirement number, having an income allocation, having a specifically mapped out course to retirement is so important. Get that plan in your hands, ladies and gentlemen. It will provide you measurable benefits and the confidence that you feel about making that transition into retirement and moving through retirement. That plan is concise, easy to understand language, instructions, priorities, action items, and ways that you can execute on your planning to be more efficient with your money. Pick up the phone, have a quick conversation with the team there at Ron Courser and Associates, and then set up a time to get that plan put together, designed by a team of experienced, qualified professionals. 616-301-2581. That's 616-301-2581. 2581. Quick break. We'll be back with more. We'll talk about some of the factors that you need to consider when structuring your income allocation and your retirement number here on Your Course to Retirement in just a moment. And we're back here on Your Course to Retirement. Nolan Gosley, Vice President at Ron Courser and Associates, with us today on the program, helping us to understand what it takes to calculate our retirement number, what it's going to take for us to retire successfully. How much do I need to retire? When can I retire? These are the questions that calculating that retirement number can help you answer. And having that income allocation component of your plan is all about calculating out that retirement number and then figuring out how to efficiently generate the income you're going to need. It's part of the Course to Retirement plan that Ron Courser and Associates, Nolan Gosley, and the team there at Ron Courser and Associates are willing to put together for you free of charge, complimentary, no cost, no obligation. If you're willing to invest a little of your time, they're willing to donate theirs and help you along the way and making sure you're doing the right things with your money. Pick up the phone, give them a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. So Ron, So Nolan, before the break, we talked a little bit about calculating out that retirement income gap, going through the process of defining the income allocation. What are some of the factors that we're going to need to consider when we make those calculations?
Sure. So some of the things to consider, as you're working through what is my retirement number in the income allocation plan, first and foremost, we need to talk about taxation. Tax is one of those things that for a lot of people, it never goes away. Unlike maybe a penalty for Social Security, taxation of Social Security is around forever if you make enough money. Very similar with your IRAs. If you take money out of an IRA or traditional 401k, you will be taxed on that money. And so it kind of seems like retirement is part tax planning and part investment planning, where you really have to delineate, well, this is why I'm taking money out of this IRA, this Roth IRA, any other cash value you may have somewhere else to avoid potentially prohibitive or inhibitive tax situations. So taxes would probably be the first one. And then to couple on top of taxes, I'd say inflation is another one that maybe is a silent killer of some of these portfolios. Sure. And so, you anticipate that you're going to take, let's say 3, 4, 5% withdrawal from your portfolio every year, but do you factor inflation into that? Is it national inflation or is it your own inflation? Our bread here in Michigan might cost a little bit more than somebody else's bread in Ohio. So somebody else's inflation may be different than ours. So identifying your inflation and how that may impact, your retirement plan is very important.
Well, I know taxes, it's not what we make, it's what we keep. Taxes are going to be
Right.
the biggest obstacle sort of standing in the middle there, and probably an issue on a lot of people's minds this year. In fact, both of those, I think more and more are going to be prevalent as we move through 2021 here, is the story of taxes, how to best handle and manage those. And then inflation, I think, is likely to be an issue as well moving to the future, Nolan.
Yeah. A couple things just on that. I mean, a lot of folks expect that over the next few years, taxes are going to go up. One of the things that Ron and I continually talk to our clients about is just our debt situation here in the United States. If the debt continues to go up and our debt service ratio continues to go up as well, that means that we may need to increase our tax revenue in order to service that debt. We are in some of the lowest tax brackets that we've been in for a very, very long time. So when you're talking about retirement planning and especially income planning, talking about taxation is probably more appropriate now than it ever has been. There are a whole lot of opportunities to maybe take advantage of some of these low tax rates that we're in right now, especially with regards to retirement planning.
And having that conversation and sort of mapping that out as part of the review process and part of the plan, the course to retirement action items and priorities, maybe some strategic moves we could make to optimize our tax situation into the future, minimize our tax situation into the future.
Right, exactly right. And one of the things that I always try and make sure that I do is if you have a CPA, accountant, tax person, anything like that, we keep those people in the loop. This isn't just we're cowboys and we're going to go do something on our own. If you do decide you want to create a tax efficient income plan for your retirement, I think it's very important to involve all professionals that are part of your retirement plan. That includes your CPA, estate planning attorney, if necessary, so on and so forth. So, not only creating the plan, but involving everybody else that's going to have a piece of that for you is pivotally important.
And you've got the team of professionals there at Ron Corson and Associates to look at many aspects, but you could have the best individual financial planner, the best individual tax planner, the best individual attorney and legal planner. If those efforts are not being coordinated on your behalf, if they are not communicating, you're not getting the most out of your planning team. So Nolan, I like that Ron, I like that Nancy are all there working as a team to make sure that a large portion and aspect of those plans is coordinated and there is communication from the wealth and the health side.
For sure. Yeah. And it's pivotal to our business operations, and it's pivotal to a whole lot of our clients too, to be able to, kill two birds with one stone here with healthcare and wealth care. I mean, that's huge. And if we can coordinate those things with the other financial professionals in your life, I mean, we're basically a 5-man basketball team that's just working on your financial well-being and future. You're the coach. You basically get to coordinate it all. So, it's something that we try and do hand in hand with all of your professionals, not, we're the only ones that know this information. So.
Well, again, if you would like help, assistance, if you'd like a team to speak with, if you'd like to talk with experienced, qualified professionals about your questions, about your financial future, mapping that out, getting the course to retirement plan in your hands, pick up the phone and give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Talking with Nolan Gosley about calculating your retirement number. Nolan, one of the things that has always been hotly debated is the acceptable cash flow rate. Okay, we've got the lump sum, we've got our need for income. Now, how much should our lump sum be able to generate for us is something that really to this point and for many decades has kind of just been a guess, a hypothetical. Yes, back testing has been done, but as they always say, past performance never guarantees future results. So there was always a probability of some amount of failure with what Wall Street has been basing our retirement plans on.
Sure. And there's a whole lot of risks if you have cash flow generating off your portfolio and it's a 100% market-based portfolio, there are a whole lot of risks around that. Acceptable cash flow rate may have originally been coined as what's called the 4% rule, essentially saying that if you have a 60% stock, 40% bond portfolio, and you take out 4% per year, you have 2 standard deviations or, more than 95% probability of not outliving your money if you retire for 30 years. That was the concept. That's what all of this was based upon. But as we continue to move into the new direction that the markets are going, that the globe is going with finances and otherwise, that safe rate of return has gone from 4% down to 2.5%, down to 2%, and then even below 2% in some cases. As we continue to test these numbers, we realize the market changes. The 4% rule may have been good 30, 40, 50 years ago, but the 4% rule may not have worked, in the early 2000s or even during the lost decade from 2000 to 2010. I mean, if you didn't have an income plan, if you didn't have income allocation, and you were just working off a 4% rule, that was a pretty rough 10-year period for you.
Well, I got to say, Nolan, if the weatherman gets on TV and says there's a 10% chance of rain today, I'm feeling pretty comfortable leaving my house without my umbrella. But if my financial plan on the day before I retire says that, hey, you've got a 10% chance of running out of money in retirement, I'm concerned. I'm doing everything within my power. I may even consider not retiring and working a little longer to try to address that. Yes, it's a small chance, but that chance being there makes me uncomfortable in retirement.
Right. And income allocation is all about trying to reduce that variability to create some type of systematic payment schedule, something from your portfolio to generate that monthly income that does not vary month to month, year to year based on portfolio size.
So this specifically is where plans have been improved and where income allocation has measurable benefits above the old asset allocation model and the 4% rule.
Right. And we've talked about changes in the markets a lot already this episode. And it didn't used to be as easy to find products to fill that income gap, and now it's become easier. We're able to shop among 30, 40, 50 annuity companies for, hundreds of products, at the ease of a couple clicks. Same with life insurance, same with other types of investments. We have the ability as advisors to really shop and make sure that you are getting not only, what's suitable for your situation, but what we believe is in your best interest as far as what you're trying to do with your retirement planning process.
Well, the goal of calculating out that retirement number is finding out how much you have to have saved in order to retire comfortably. if you need to build your savings further, or if you're already to that point. That's what is answered when you calculate out that retirement number, as well as how much is left over and above for discretionary spending and kind of that security blanket. Because Nolan, we don't want to just live a subsistence lifestyle in retirement. We want to live a lifestyle of abundance and enjoyment in retirement. It's not about just paying the bills. It's about being able to go out and travel and buy gifts. It's about the dinners with our spouse. It's about the bottles of wine with friends. We've got to know and understand what we have available as kind of our piggy bank to do the extra things once this question of our retirement number is calculated and satisfied.
Yeah, and income planning helps accomplish that goal. It helps identify certain portions of the portfolio, some for income now, some for discretionary spending now. You know, a lot of folks find out that the first 5 years of retirement's more expensive than their last 5 years of working.
I don't doubt that at all. I mean, we've got this bucket list of things we've always wanted to do, and now we've got the time to do it.
Exactly. You know, you want to travel, you want to be able to spoil grandkids, you want to be able to give to your churches, you want to be able to do all of these things, but that requires having a plan so that you know where that income's going to come from. Stating your objectives, making them measurable, making them specific and attainable, are all things that we deem vital to income planning. So, you know, not coming up with some sort of fake numbers, but saying, okay, this is what is going to happen. That's an income plan. This will, you know, putting some of that certainty back into the planning process that maybe you felt a little less certain about as you left your job for the last day.
No, I can tell you one thing with certainty is I'm either making money or I am spending money. And I find that I spend far less money during the work week when Saturday and Sunday come around, when I've got days off, when I've got vacation time. That's when I am spending the majority of my money. And in retirement, sort of every day is a Saturday on vacation. So I could find it easy to maybe worry about overspending, especially in those early years, and then Nolan begin not to live life to its fullest and not do the things because I'm worried about overspending. And that's not the retirement that we envision. We want to be confident with our spending. Nolan, it's one of the things that people really liked and appreciated about pensions and Social Security is that they had the freedom to spend through those things. And then poof, the next month, there's another deposit. There's another check in the mailbox. That gives us confidence being able to spend, knowing we're going to have a refill when we're done.
Right. And as we've said, those have become more and more of an exception. We're finding more and more retirees are either not qualifying for pensions, or the pension was sold 5-10 years ago and the benefits aren't as good as they were originally. Or, you know, in some cases, the pension ceases to exist.
Another great point here, Nolan, talking about pensions, talking about all the changes. A lot of people probably have the question of, do I take my pension as an income or do I take my pension as a lump sum? The process that we're talking about here of calculating the retirement number and income allocation really begins to give them a way to quantify and evaluate that important question if they are lucky enough to have that as an option.
Yeah, having a pension as an option is a wonderful thing. Obviously, you work your entire working career to have that pension, and you want to make sure that it's handled the proper way at the end of your working career. Now, one option is not better than the other. Every single situation is different. Everybody has a different lifestyle. Everybody has different pensions. But all of those things aside, it truly is a dichotomy. You get the option here of taking a lifetime income that you can never outlive as long as the pension remains financially solvent, versus taking a lump sum, putting it somewhere that maybe you're not familiar with, or somewhere you are familiar with but doesn't have as many guarantees, and then trying to live off of that without guarantees, especially if you go put it in the market. And that's what a whole lot of people do. They take their lump sum, they take this huge value that they've worked at. Think of it like equity in a home, and then they go put all of that at risk in the market. If your pension is worth, however many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you can generate an income off of that, that risk of investing, or the risk of, maybe introducing some riskier assets into that portfolio, doesn't accomplish a whole lot of retirement goals from the people that we talk to. So it's identifying the options and making sure that it works with your other income streams. And that's what income allocation is. What are your options? How does it fit with the other things that you have? And what's the best option for you?
If you'd like to calculate all those things out, if you would like to arrive at your retirement number, if you'd like to see if you've got enough, or if you've still got some ways to go, or if you could be more efficient with your money, if you'd like to evaluate, should you take the income or the lump sum from a pension, these are all the subjects that we're talking about today. But the team from Ron Courser and Associates, they help out with these questions and so many more. What kind of fees are you paying? What kind of taxes will you be liable for? How much risk are you taking? All of these are part of the initial process in giving you a snapshot of where you are today. And that is part of the Course to Retirement plan. Consolidated, easy to understand language, a snapshot of where you are, a discussion of your goals, and then defined recommendations, items to execute, action items, and a timeline of how to achieve and accomplish them. If you'd like that Course to Retirement plans in your hand, pick up the phone, give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. And again, Nolan, we're talking about calculating out the retirement number. Asset allocation, the model that most of us are using in our 401ks and our retirement accounts of divvying up our money. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have a little variety, have some diversity. That does not address this question of what is your retirement number. It does not give us any kind of predictability. Although some 401k statements do give a projection of income right on the front cover, which a lot of people tend to take as true in fact and be dependable when it's really anything but.
Sure. And I think that, that in particular can be easily evidenced as early 2020. You had a whole lot of people that had all these systems in place and retirement assets and everything like that. But if you looked at your 401k the second week of February in 2020, and then you looked at the same projections for that 401k at the beginning of April 2020, chances are your projected income in retirement was significantly less because we had a pretty significant market correction. And so a lot of times when you have those systems, those technologies, they're very, very smart technology, but smart technology is always going to be built on previous information. It's always going to be previous performance,
only as good as the assumptions that it's based on.
Exactly. And that we have what's called a not may principle in our industry where, investments, especially stock investments, are not guaranteed. They're not FDIC insured, and they may go down in value. And so if those three things are true and you have a not may with your entire portfolio balance, you're not really giving yourself any sort of security or anything like that.
I don't want a not may retirement.
I don't want a not may retirement either, man.
Well, we know that with our money, we need to pay bills, pay taxes, spend it, give it away, donate to charity, have fun, travel, and save it. And at the end of the day, when we retire, when we walk away from the paycheck, all we have left is number 4, what we've saved. And we've got to recreate our ability to do those first 3, pay bills, pay taxes. Those things are not going to go away. And hopefully we can keep spending and having fun and traveling and donating to charity throughout retirement. So Nolan, we need a plan in order to do that.
Yeah. And an income allocation plan provides all of that for you. It can cover a wide variety of bases. It's very flexible in nature. It brings a whole bunch of different variability into the plan, variability that's very important for investors in particular, that are worried about being at risk of losing some of their money, and so those that had an income plan early in 2020 with a portion of their portfolio designed for income and a portion of their portfolio maybe designed for growth or some of that discretionary spending, they didn't really sweat the pandemic all that much because they know, well, my only money that was at risk during the pandemic is money that I'm going to spend discretionarily anyway. If that's the case, I don't necessarily need it this year. And so that relieves a whole bunch of stress, as opposed to someone like, if you really like the market and you had 100% stock portfolio, you probably lost between 35 and 40%. Just about a year ago. I mean, if your plan was to retire in April or May, chances are you had to put that off for a little while until you could recover your assets back. And so, yeah, income allocation, it accomplishes a lot of things. It checks those boxes for sure.
Well, we know that markets fluctuate, but generally our bills and our expenses, they don't fluctuate nearly as much. Account balances have the tendency to fall over time, while the cost of living generally increases over time. Nolan, all of these facts plus more are reasons why more and more investors, savers, those retirement-minded individuals are learning about and including elements of an income allocation in their plans. And that's why you there at Ron Corser and Associates include that income allocation as part of the course to retirement plan that you design for savers and investors around Grand Rapids.
Exactly right, Peter. And I think it's important just to mention that the income planning process and the income plan here in the office, that's something that everybody gets. So you come into the office here and you sit down with Ron or myself and you just want to talk about, hey, I want to make sure I'm at my retirement number, but you don't even know what that means. We're open. We sit down with people all the time, teach budgeting basics. We teach everything from the very basics of putting money into a 401k all the way through taking money out and taking money out efficiently. So that's what everybody gets here. Everybody will get some sort of an idea of, when I retire, this is where this money is going to come from. 5 years into retirement, this is where this other money is going to come from. And adding that certainty or adding at least some sort of a guarantee helps alleviate a whole lot of those risks.
Well, again, if you would like that plan, a course to retirement in your hands, pick up the phone, give Ron Corser and Associates, give Nolan Gosley a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. You can also go online, roncorser.com. Lots of old editions of the podcast available there. They got the archives, all kinds of specific topics and subjects that you may have questions about available, resources, tools, calculators, reports, white papers on a variety of different important financial topics. As we move through 2021, there are some that are going to be big stories: taxes, inflation, low interest rates, market volatility. Those are par for the course. There's probably going to be some surprises along the way, but you don't want your financial outcome, your results, to be derailed by things that may come along. If you've got a plan in place, you're more likely to have a more stable, secure, confident, predictable financial future. Get your course to retirement plan in your hands today. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. And Nolan, I skipped over the 10 steps to prepare for retirement, this report that you have. But we talked about a lot of these topics. Define your budget, define your sources of guaranteed income, define your income gap, strategize on how to maximize Social Security, formulate an income plan, understanding risk exposure, calculate taxes, consolidate like qualified accounts, consider inflation, reviewing and updating legal documents. These are pretty easy to understand steps that'll go a long way in making sure we're prepared.
Exactly. And 10 steps to prepare for retirement. There may be more, there may be less, depending on your situation. But again, it's important to have coordination. It's important to have education at the forefront of what we do, because it doesn't really make sense to have an income plan if you don't understand it. So all of these steps, the defining your budget, figuring out your guaranteed income, identifying the income gap, those are things on the front end that you as a retiree should be doing anyway. And then once you have identified your income gap, it's then your choice of how to fill it. If you're a very risk tolerant person and the market seems good right now, you just kind of hope that the market doesn't go bad. And we all hope that, but sometimes it does. So going through these 10 steps, what we've found is that we're able to cover as many bases as you feasibly can on the front end to establish a sound plan, not just this is what my 401k is going to be allocated like. That's not a plan. That's a dart throw. I mean, we all know the market does things that we can't predict. So if the market does things that we can't predict, why would you want your retirement money to do things that you can't predict?
Well, you build the foundation before you put up the walls and put on the roof. So these are kind of the foundations for that stable, secure retirement plan, your course to retirement. Get that plan in your hands, ladies and gentlemen. Pick up the phone. Give Nolan Gosley at Ron Corser and Associates a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. They'll put that easy to understand list of priorities and action items in your hand, your course to retirement. Nolan, we always appreciate your time. Thank you for being here as our resource and the resource for so many savers and investors, retirement-minded community in and around Grand Rapids.
Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you, everybody else, for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Tune in to Ron Corser's full radio program, A Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. on WOOD, and visit roncourser.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.